Alright, what's happening, y'all? I told y'all a few videos ago that the Panthers would probably part ways with Greg Olsen, and they did. Technically, the Panthers can't officially release him till after the Super Bowl, but this announcement pretty much means he will be released as soon as the Super Bowl ends. Like, as soon as that clock hits 0000, that man Greg Olsen is no longer a Panther. After 9 years, too, that's crazy. He was on the books for $11.6 million against the cap, like I previously talked about a couple of videos ago when I was talking about tight ends. And nearly $8 million of it was straight in cash. And with him being up there in age, being injury prone, and the Panthers are cleaning house even more than we are. I mean, we kept a few people from the Redskins with Kyle Smith, Nate, the special teams coach, Randy Jordan, the running backs coach. I think the Panthers literally got rid of anybody. If you knew any of the passwords to anything last year in 2019, you're not going to be there in 2020. You probably got to go through a mind wipe screening or something. They got to Men in Black you with the pin and all that. I'm assuming some players will be safe. Of course, you can't get rid of all of the players because then you'll just be an expansion team. But it clearly made sense that Greg Olsen had to get up out of there. New regime, they're trying to go younger, faster, healthier, and he's literally neither of those three. But Greg Olsen is still interested in playing, and I will be communicating with teams after the Super Bowl. That's what his agent said. So Greg Olsen still wants to play, clearly, if he can, if he gets any suitors. But if not, he'll just go commentate somewhere. There are a lot of people who are a fan of his commentating, so if he's not able to contribute on the field, he'll go to contribute in the booth. But now let's get to why I'm talking about this as a Redskins fan. We obviously have a big need at tight end for the Redskins. Huge. And if y'all have seen my previous videos and talked to me in the comments, you know that my dream scenario is to draft Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's son, later in the draft, and then bring in Austin Hooper as a free agent for cheap, though. Because I don't feel like Austin Hooper is just this great home run tight end signing, standing alone, like a lot of people do. He had a crazy season with the Falcons last year, but I more so feel like it was the result of the system around him and the players that were there to distract defenses away from him, such as Julio and Calvin Ridley and all of them. But at the same time, I feel like if the Falcons got that out of them, I feel like the Redskins will get that, if not even more, with Terry McLaurin, Steven Sims, and Kelvin Harmon distracting defenses away from them to replace Julio and Calvin Ridley. And then I feel like our offensive coordinator is more creative and has more potential than what the Falcons offense was doing last year. I feel like Dwayne Haskins' strong arm and potential just in general will be able to get Austin Hooper the ball better and quicker than how Matt Ryan was doing it. And I feel like our running back situation will be better, especially if they're healthy, which will also distract defenses away from Austin Hooper. And then as far as we go, Austin Hooper is already a better blocker than Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis were when all healthy. When all three of them are healthy, it's not even close. And he's not the receiver that Jordan Reed or Vernon Davis are when all three are healthy. But Austin Hooper is far less injury prone than Vernon Davis and Jordan Reed. And like I said, you can easily scheme him open. Because even George Kittle isn't just this Travis Kelce or Jordan Reed in the open field and just separating on his own. Kyle Shanahan schemes him open. And we saw last year that the Falcons can scheme Austin Hooper open. I'm pretty sure we can do the same. And if anything, he'll be even more productive here. Because you got to worry about Terry McLaurin, Steven Sims, and Kelvin Harmon. But yeah, I want Austin Hooper in free agency and Thaddeus Moss in the draft, like later, maybe like the 4th round. We may have to go get him in the 3rd. I'm not sure. We'll see. We still have a few months until the draft even starts, so we'll have to see how the draft stocks rise and fall, what's all the rumors going around, everything like that. And we'll have to see what he does at the NFL Scouting Combine. All of that type of stuff will determine when he's going to go in the draft. But for now, I'm thinking 3rd or 4th round. And then if we bring in those two, we bring back Hale Hinges to see what he can do because he started to shine those last 2 games when we gave him the opportunity. I'm very interested in seeing what he can do. Jeremy Sprinkle is going to be there. Might as well just go ahead and give him a last chance to see what he has to offer. And then just bring in Greg Olsen on like a veteran minimum or something very close to it and have him there in training camp to see if he can get anything done. See if he still has any juice at all, if he can stay healthy, all of that type of stuff. And if he does, then great. That's just another great tight end to have, who's a great receiving option and can also block, which is one of the main things we need, which is why I want Austin Hooper and Greg Olsen, so that when we have a tight end on the field, it doesn't show what we're doing. When we had Jeremy Sprinkle on the field, more than likely we're running it, and defenses knew that. When we had Jordan Reed or Vernon Davis on the field, we were more than likely throwing it, and defenses knew that. But with Austin Hooper and Greg Olsen, they won't exactly know what we're doing. But at the end of the day, if Greg Olsen doesn't pan out through training camp, we can just release him after we signed him on the minimum contract that I'm theoretically saying that we signed him to. But I do not want Greg Olsen on some crazy contract. I want him on a very minimum type of contract, veterans minimum if possible, something team friendly, so that if he doesn't work out, we just release him and it doesn't hurt us. Or if he does work out, then all we get is upside and we lose nothing. Now I want to just talk about some of his stats and what he did at Carolina to see how he would be able to help the Redskins. So yeah, I love the idea of pairing a veteran tight end like Austin Hooper with a young gun with a lot of potential like Thaddeus Moss, who is probably the best blocking tight end in the entire draft and literally just has to improve his route running. He's not this athletic freak, so he's never going to be explosive, but you can't tell me if he learns how to run routes, he can't be as good or even better than Austin Hooper at getting open. And again, offensive schemes are supposed to get tight ends open. It's very rare where tight ends can actually separate on their own. Also, some people think that signing Greg Olsen and Austin Hooper together will be very expensive. But first of all, we could potentially end up having $90 million in cap space. And second, like I said earlier, I don't want them on crazy contracts. I want Greg Olsen on a very cheap contract, which I feel like that probably will be his market value because people know he's old and injury prone. So there's no way he's just out here asking for crazy money. The only leverage he really has is that he's not desperate. He can basically be like, all right, either y'all pay me this much or I'm going to go do commentating. But the Greg Olsen matchup just seems too perfect anyway, just off the fact that he'll be under Ron Rivera and he'll have Pete Honer as his tight end coach again, like he had at Carolina. I mean, the matchup is too perfect if he wants to do it. I feel like if there is a team that he would go to for cheap, it would be the Redskins because he'll have a lot of familiar faces, a lot of trustworthy people there to work with him. And we have a big need at tight end, so the Redskins will more than likely want to try to go at least look at him. Like I said, bring him in, see if he works out for training camp. If not, just release him. Then he can go commentate. If he ends up getting hurt or showing that he's just too old to move fast or be effective as a blocker and all of that. But yeah, back to the money thing. I want Greg Olsen on a veteran minimum or something close to it, some team-friendly contract. And then I don't want Austin Hooper for some Travis Kelce type money. We all know he's not that great. I definitely don't want to reset the market to get him. So I only want both of them on humble contracts, team-friendly contracts. And at the same time, with our team being so youthful, a lot of our best players are on cheap contracts. Our quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, rookie contract. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, rookie contract. Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, rookie contract. Matt Ioannidis was extended, but it's still a very team-friendly deal. All of our impact receivers are on rookie contracts. I mean, after we release Paul Richardson, of course. We already know he's gone. If we bring in Trey Boston, which I hope we do, it'll probably be for a relatively cheap contract. When we re-sign Eric Flowers, which I hope we do, it more than likely won't break the bank. I doubt it'll be market setting. So even if we had to splurge a little and overpay a little for tight end, we'd be just fine. I don't want to do that, but I'm just saying, like, as a scenario, we'll definitely be okay. But now, since this is a Greg Olsen video, I want to talk a little bit about his track record and why I feel like he would be a good fit for the Redskins. First of all, he is injury prone, but you cannot compare him to a Jordan Reed. From the 2012 season all the way through the 2016 season, Greg Olsen never missed a single game. These injuries have been hitting him recently, like as of late, but it was mostly in 2017 where he only started 7 games after an injury, and the same thing next year where he only started 9 games. But last year he started 14 games. He may not still be the same Greg Olsen from 2012 with the same legs and all of that, same speed, but he's not just this extremely injury-prone player. He went 5 seasons without missing a single start and then had some injuries the next couple of seasons, and then he started 14 games last year. So he's shown that he's not just this super injury-prone type of guy. We may need to worry because he's had recent injuries and he's up there in age, and injuries hit you harder and linger more when you're older, but he's definitely not in this Jordan Reed category. I mean, look at Jordan Reed's track record. The most games he's ever started in a season was 9, and that was 2015. Other than that season where he started 9 games in 2015, he started 8 games the next year in 2016 and started 8 games in 2018. He played absolutely no games last year, and in 2017 he only started 5 games and only played in 6. That is a whole different level of injury prone, which has also affected his stats that he's put up. Jordan Reed's best season was 2015, which is of course the season he started the most games. He had 952 receiving yards. Other than that, the most yards he's ever had in a season was 686, which is 2016. Greg Olsen, on the other hand, has had 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons, and the 2 seasons before that he had 800 receiving yards. And he's a much better blocker than Jordan Reed. So like I said earlier, and what I've been screaming about for a couple of years now, is that having somebody like Austin Hooper or Greg Olsen, that when they're on the field doesn't automatically signal whether we're running the ball or throwing the ball, will make our offense so much more deadly. And I feel so sorry for Jay Gruden, because that's what he really wanted. He wanted to run 2 tight end sets, but never had the personnel to do it. I'm not saying him having 2 tight ends was going to make him a good head coach, but he never had the 2 tight end sets that he wanted. He's never had a true dual threat tight end that can be a dependable blocker and that can go out there and make plays in the passing game. Greg Olsen can do that. I'm not 100% sure he can do it at this age, but we'll have to see. Also, since 2011, Greg Olsen has averaged at least 10 yards per reception. Now, Jordan Reed at his best was utilized more in the red zone for touchdowns, more than Greg Olsen was at his best. But at the same time, Cam Newton just scored a lot of those touchdowns himself. He just ran it in. So that's kind of not fair for Greg Olsen's part. Greg Olsen can definitely be a dependable red zone threat. So can Austin Hooper. And I know Thaddeus Moss definitely can. We've seen that in the championship game against Clemson. Also, just to let you know that Greg Olsen does have some wheels on him. He's had a 78-yard reception. He's had a couple of 50-yard receptions. While Jordan Reed, on the other hand, his longest reception in his career was for 38 yards. In each season of his career, his longest have been in the 30s. Greg Olsen pretty much averages over 30, with a few 50s, a 78, some 40s. So don't try Greg Olsen like he don't have the burners on him just a little bit. But yeah, man, that's really it though. Just wanted to talk about Greg Olsen and the possibility of the Redskins going to go get him. Match made in heaven for both teams. We need a tight end, especially for cheap. He's a tight end that more than likely will go for cheap and does exactly what we need. He's a dual threat tight end, can block very well, and can also be a deadly option in the passing game, and has dependable hands, unlike Jeremy Sprinkle. And then on top of that, if we can draft Thaddeus Moss late in the draft, or that boy Adam Troutman who went stupid in the Senior Bowl later in the draft, he comes from one of them low competition schools, so people didn't know how good he would actually be against real competition, going against Division I talent like he did in the Senior Bowl. He put up great film before the Senior Bowl, but people were like, well, you know, he's doing it to people who don't really care about football. There's doctors, lawyers, all kinds of stuff, people with other career aspirations that don't necessarily put their all into football that he was balling against. But then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and it's people that live, breathe, and die football, and he's balling on them too. So if we can get him in the later rounds with Thaddeus Moss or instead of him, whichever one, man, that boy Adam Troutman is going to be a problem. And then bring in Austin Hooper in free agency for cheap. Let me keep emphasizing that, for cheap. Do not reset the market for that guy. Then we completely solve our tight end problem, especially if we bring back Hale Hinges to see what he has to offer also. But yeah, that's it for this Redskins video. It's your boy Rico. Please like the video if you liked it. If you learned anything, please subscribe. Constantly bringing y'all Redskins talk infinite throughout this offseason and going into the regular season and hopefully going into the 2020 postseason. And then even if you're not a Redskins fan, draft talk is about to start flooding in from me. And I'm planning a live stream for everybody to be able to participate in, because I definitely want to get some live streams. I may just pick a day of the week where I live stream every week on that day at that time, and we can just chop it up about whatever's happening in recent news. It doesn't even have to necessarily be Redskins talk. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about that live stream idea. And like I said, I'm trying to work out a way to where I can have a voting system, and then y'all are able to vote on stuff during the live stream, and then it shows you like a colorful illustration on the screen, and it'll show you the votes going up and stuff, and then it'll show like who won the votes and everything like that, just to get y'all more involved in everything, instead of just seeing the comments and then like say one person says the same thing 3 times. If we do like a voting poll, that person's vote will only count once, and then we get to truly see how everybody feels about certain topics and questions and debates and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, please let me know how y'all feel about that live stream idea where we plan a day and I live stream at least for a couple of hours that same time, that same day every week. And then I can already come with topics that we can talk about. Then y'all can also bring topics y'all want to talk about. And then of course, make sure y'all get in them comments and let me know about y'all favorite tight end scenarios. Who do you want in free agency or draft? Both? Or do you just want to attack one? Do you want to go only in free agency? Do you want to go only in the draft? How do you feel about Greg Olsen? Do you want the Redskins to bring him in? And man, that's really it, bro. Again, please subscribe if you haven't. Thank y'all for the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out. I don't know what you want, bro. What's going on? Nah, what's going on? What's going on? High five. Come on. Come on. High five. High five, bro. High five. Come here. High five. High five. Oh, okay. High five over here, though. Okay, but high five over here, though. High five over here. High five over here. There you go. Ain't that good, now?